Los Angeles, once known as the City of Angels, is now collapsing under the weight of a crisis so deep, so human, that it's impossible to ignore. The streets are no longer just streets. They're homes, shelters, hospitals, and battlegrounds. Every sidewalk tells a story, every alley holds a broken dream. The most visible face of this tragedy is homelessness. Tens of thousands of individuals and families scattered across the city, unable to afford even the most basic form of housing. They're not just jobless, many are working, they're not all addicts, many are parents, veterans, survivors. But in this city, even a paycheck doesn't promise a roof. The cost of living has exploded into something monstrous. The median home price is now $912,500, more than double the national average. And rent? A basic two-bedroom apartment costs about $2,570 a month, which is $1,200 more than many Americans can afford. That means people are choosing between rent and food, between shelter and medicine, between survival and dignity. For thousands, the decision is made for them. They sleep in cars, in parks, on sidewalks under bridges, and even in tents surrounded by million-dollar condos. Poverty doesn't come alone. It drags other monsters with it: health problems, hunger, and despair. People living in poverty are more likely to get sick, more likely to suffer from untreated diseases, and more likely to die earlier. Not because they're weak, but because the system is. No access to healthcare, no access to clean, safe food, no access to anything that could break the cycle. And then there's the refugee crisis, an invisible layer of suffering. In 1990, Los Angeles County had about 16,000 undocumented immigrants. By 2023, that number had exploded to over 210,000. Most of them live in limbo, without work permits or access to public assistance. They exist, but they don't belong. They're stuck in a country that invited them with one hand and shut the door with the other. Many live in fear, many live on the street, and when you're undocumented, homelessness isn't just about sleeping rough, it's about hiding, surviving, disappearing into the cracks. Frank is one of those cracks. At 69 years old, he's been homeless in Venice for more than a decade. He came to Los Angeles legally. He gets a disability check and a veteran's pension, but it's not enough. His body aches. He uses marijuana for the pain, and every day he wonders if the world has forgotten people like him. According to Frank, the solution isn't just about homes, it's about jobs, it's about understanding, it's about being seen. And it's not just Frank. All across the city, the signs are there. Ambulances that never stop, shelters that are full by 5 p.m., emergency rooms used as primary care clinics, and people waiting in line not for luxury, but for a blanket or a sandwich. The health system is collapsing under the pressure. Drug addiction, mental illness, and violence have become part of the city's heartbeat. Fire departments are stretched thin, sanitation crews can't keep up, and social workers are exhausted. And yes, the crime rate is climbing. In 2023 alone, there were more than 92,000 reported crimes in Los Angeles. That's a 10% increase over the year before. The reality, people are desperate, they steal to eat, they fight to survive. In places where there are no rules, chaos becomes the norm. But here's the truth: most homeless people are not criminals, they're victims of a broken system. But when public spaces turn into lawless encampments, fear rises, and walls go up. What's left are neighborhoods in decay. Once beautiful parks now covered in trash and human waste. Sidewalks filled with tents, needles, and sorrow. Public spaces aren't just unpleasant, they're dangerous. Tourists avoid them, locals fear them, and businesses suffer. The cost of cleaning these areas is massive, but as soon as they're cleared, the people return. Not because they want to, but because they have nowhere else to go. There's a canyon in this city, a chasm between the rich and the poor. Between those living in glass towers and those living in nylon tents. Between hope and hopelessness. Skid Row is the most brutal example. It's not a place people stumble into by accident, it's where the city sends them, on purpose. A containment zone for poverty. A legal, geographic box where the unwanted are pushed and forgotten. But even in the darkest corners, there's a pulse of humanity. People look out for each other. They form makeshift families. They share food, shelter, and stories. They protect each other from the violence, from the cold, from the city that seems determined to forget they exist. But solidarity alone doesn't solve addiction. It doesn't treat mental illness, and it doesn't build housing. A woman who's lived in Skid Row for 11 years tells her story. She talks about gunfights, robberies, panic attacks, and the daily stress of surviving. She panhandles, she recycles, she sells whatever she can. She uses substances not to get high, but to numb the pain. Her voice is tired, her hope is flickering. She's not just surviving homelessness, she's surviving trauma every single day. The city has tried. The Inside Safe initiative moved 23,000 people into shelters in 2024, more than ever before. Governor Newsom pledged $12 billion to fight the crisis, including funding for temporary and permanent housing programs. But it's not enough. There are still 75,000 homeless people in LA County. 70% of them don't have shelter. That means 52,000 human beings, men, women, children, are sleeping outside every night. And what's worse? The city keeps clearing encampments, claiming it's for safety, but where do these people go? Nowhere. They scatter, they vanish. They start over in another alley, another park, another overpass. The cycle never ends. These sweeps look like action, but they're just theater. Expensive, heartbreaking theater that does nothing to solve the problem. Every time a tent is torn down, a life is torn apart. Continuity of care breaks, mental health treatment stops, addiction support disappears, and the trauma deepens. These people have already lost everything. Every sweep is another blow. If a city truly wants to solve homelessness, it needs to stop pretending. It needs to build affordable housing. It needs to invest in treatment, in support systems, in long-term care. Anything less is a bandage on a bullet wound. And that bullet is bleeding out across Los Angeles. This isn't just the story of Los Angeles. This is the story of a system breaking, of a society crumbling under its own weight. But it's also the story of what could be changed. If we confront the truth, if we care enough to act. If this story moved you, don't just scroll. Speak up, share your voice, like, comment, subscribe. Let's not look away from the suffering, let's shine a light into it, because that's the only way it ends.